Imagine this. You go to the casino or you bet online. You gamble a little bit. You lose money overall. And then the IRS tells you that you owe thousands of dollars in taxes. That sounds impossible, right? How could you owe taxes if you lost money? That's what's known as the phantom tax. And with the changes tied to the BBB, more gamblers than ever are at risk of running straight into it. Today, let's break down how gambling was taxed before, what the BBB changes, why professional gamblers aren't protected, and why even casual players can get blindsided. Let's understand how the system works and how it can affect all gamblers, from casual to professional, before it costs you real money. Let's start with the basics. The Big Beautiful Bill, or better known as the BBB, was passed by Congress in July 2025. The bill is largely about raising revenue and closing perceived loopholes. And one area the government has been paying closer attention to is gambling. Why? Because gambling has changed. It's no longer just a weekend at the casino or an occasional lottery ticket. Now it's online sportsbooks, daily fantasy, social casinos, high-volume digital betting, and influencers normalizing constant play. This is very different from how things used to be. Since time immemorial, when the first two cavemen bet on some beaded jewelry, you had gambling that looked pretty much the same. You had to be physically present, usually in a brick-and-mortar location, at a racetrack, a card room, or somewhere that sells lottery tickets. And you had to stop when the casino closed or you left because you were hungry and tired. Because of that, gambling volume was naturally limited. You could only spin so many times. You could only place so many bets, and wins and losses happened in relatively contained sessions. That's the environment that most gambling tax rules were written for. Today, things are very different. Gambling no longer requires travel, time commitment, or even cash in hand. You can play on your phone with mobile sportsbooks, online casinos, social casinos, daily fantasy sports, and even live and play betting. You can gamble pretty much from anywhere and at any time, 24 hours a day. And most importantly, you can place far more bets, far more often, with far more churn. That one change alone completely alters how gambling income behaves, especially for tax purposes. To understand why governments are paying closer attention, look at the scale. Globally, the entire gambling industry, land-based plus online, now generates hundreds of billions of dollars per year in revenue. And according to the AGA, in 2024, the economic impact of gambling in the U.S. was over $328 billion alone. Online gambling alone is already estimated at roughly $90 to $110 billion annually, depending on the source and region. To put that in perspective, online gambling by itself is already bigger than many entire entertainment industries, and it didn't exist at this scale 5 to 10 years ago. This isn't a niche anymore. It's a major economic sector. Here's where it gets really important. In many developed markets, 30% to 50% or more of all gambling revenue now comes from online channels. And in some categories, it's far higher. In the United States, the vast majority of sports betting is now placed online, not in casinos. Many states are seeing an 80 to 90% increase in bets coming through apps. The trend is clear. In-person gambling is growing slowly or staying flat, but online gambling is growing incredibly fast. And that growth is happening almost entirely through volume. Not necessarily bigger individual bets, but more bets, more often. Looking forward, most industry forecasts expect the online gambling market to keep growing, potentially reaching over $200 billion annually within the next decade. And this is the key point. The tax system wasn't designed for thousands of micro wins, constant bet recycling, or year-round high-volume play. But that's exactly how online gambling works. So, instead of updating the system to reflect net outcomes, the rules still focus on gross wins. That mismatch is what creates the phantom tax problem, and why it's becoming more common, not less, and how it's going to affect more people more often. The tax system was never designed for this level of volume, and instead of redesigning it cleanly, lawmakers are essentially tightening rules around what counts as taxable income. That's where things are getting dangerous. Here's roughly how gambling taxes currently work in the US before the BBB comes into effect. 1. Gambling winnings are taxable income. Every dollar you win is technically taxable, whether you receive a W-2G or not. A W-2G doesn't create the tax obligation. It just reports it. 2. Losses are not automatically deducted. Losses are only deductible if you itemize deductions, and only up to the amount of your winnings. That means, most importantly, you can't deduct losses beyond wins. This is the most important feature of the current tax law. If you won $10,000 but you ended up losing all or more of it afterwards, you can claim up to $10,000 as a loss on your taxes, paying zero income tax on your winnings, since you did not win anything. But this is what is changing. Net results don't matter. The IRS doesn't care if you lost money overall. All they care about are gross wins. So what does the BBB do, and where does the phantom tax come into play? Let me give you a simple example. Say you go to the casino and hit a jackpot, or have a great run at blackjack and win $10,000. Fantastic. The next day, feeling good, you play again and lose the $10,000. You think to yourself, well, at least I broke even? Wrong. With the BBB, the IRS allows you to only claim up to 90% of your losses. So even though you lost all the money that you won the day before, technically breaking even, you still have to pay taxes on the remaining 10% of your winnings. Unfortunately, you owe the IRS earnings taxes on the $1,000 in this scenario. Before the BBB, it would have been a wash. That is the phantom tax. It's income that exists on paper only, and it hits hardest when you gamble frequently, you recycle winnings, you play high-volume games like slots or sports betting, or you are a professional gambler. To take another example, let's say that a hypothetical gambler made $5 million in a year in winnings, playing poker, slots, or whatever you can make that kind of money on. However, throughout the year, the losses were $4.7 million. The net taxable winnings would be $300,000 pre-BBB. Not a bad year. This gambler would then pay taxes on those $300,000 in winnings. Post-BBB, however, this hypothetical gambler can only claim up to $4.23 million of the losses, which is 90% of the $4.7 million. This difference makes it look like the gambler made an additional $470,000 on paper, for total winnings of $770,000. That's an absolute monstrous increase of over 250% in taxable income. But the worst part is that it's only on paper. The gambler still only made $300,000 in reality, but must pay taxes on $770,000 in phantom dollars. That's going to hurt. One other notable change for gamblers from the BBB is the increase for the threshold for slot machine winnings from $1,200 to $2,000. This means fewer W-2G forms. They'll only come to hand pay if you win more than $2,000. Less hassle for most casual players, more continuous play at slot machines. So, how does this impact different types of gamblers? Casual gamblers. This is where many people will get shocked. You hit a jackpot, get a W-2G, and assume the casino handled the taxes. They didn't. You will probably owe more than you think, and you might not be able to deduct losses. For sports bettors, it's going to be brutal. Every winning bet counts, even if you immediately lose it on the next wager. Apps track wins, not your bankroll reality. Slot players. Slots are the phantom tax factory. Why? Frequent wins, high churn, repeated play. A slot player can lose money and still show massive taxable income. And of course, as we saw earlier, professional gamblers. Professionals will not be safe. Record keeping must be perfect, audits are more likely, and BBB scrutiny increases compliance risk. The better you are, the more visible you become. If you think that this only applies to people who gamble physically at casinos, unfortunately, you'll be in for a surprise. All online gambling, including online sports betting, is fully taxable. And that's why this matters more now, because gambling has become digital, constant, normalized, algorithm-driven. People gamble more frequently than ever before. The tax system hasn't adapted. Instead, it's applying old rules to new behavior. And that creates traps. That's why it's important to understand how the government counts your wins. So, what can casual and professional gamblers do? This is not tax advice, but here are some things that can be done. Number 1, keep bulletproof records. The IRS expects detailed documentation of all gambling activity. Win-loss logs, daily or session-based, casino or sportsbook statements, receipts, tickets, and betting slips, travel expenses, if part of a professional gambling routine, bank and credit card records tied to gambling activity. Number 2, know where to report it. Failing to deduct or filling in the wrong forms could cost you thousands in taxes. Check the IRS website or your preferred tax software. And of course, number 3, consult a tax advisor. For complex or high-dollar gambling activity, it's essential to work with a tax professional. Assume nothing is handled for you. Ignorance is expensive. In conclusion, many professionals are rightly furious about this bill, as it will have a catastrophic effect on their income. Yet casual gamblers will feel it as well. The bill will impact many people who never even step into a Las Vegas casino. Perhaps online gaming will be the most severely impacted sector of this bill. Additionally, what other ripple effects will it have in the gaming industry, as many professionals decide to hang it up or go overseas? Overall, it just doesn't make sense to pay taxes on something that doesn't exist. And paying taxes on phantom income is just a bad bet. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this bill will stick around or will it be amended? Take care.